Hey everyone, Mike Rosehart here for Wise Wealth Wednesday. Probably episode, I don't know, we must have done at least a dozen now. Every single Wednesday, you guys know that I tune in live at 7 p.m. Eastern, and I talk to you guys about, real estate, personal finance. I give you updates of what I've been up to. We've been up to a lot of cool things actually in the last couple of weeks, and I'm really excited for all of that to get underway. My eyes are a little buggy today, so I apologize. Hey, how you doing, Angela? How you doing, Patel? So yeah, my eyes are a little buggy today, so I'm wearing glasses. You guys are probably wondering, who is this guy? It's like, it's like Clark Kent. It's like, oh, there's Rosehart, Superman. I haven't worn these in a year. So let's talk about what I've been up to and how you guys can get into. Thanks, Jason. I appreciate that. Rude. You know what? Nerds crush the world, so whatever. Hey, Tommy, how you doing? Welcome on. I'm actually live in the tiny house right now. You guys probably don't know this, but I'm chilling at my desk in my tiny house. There's my fireplace, TV. You can't see it, but the rafters above. Where's the cape? Shh. I'm Clark Kent right now, guys. Don't reveal my secret identity. So yeah, what was I talking about? What we've been up to. So you guys can't see it, but we have 3 cameras right now set up, and we just got a brand new camera with a sweet lens. What's the name of the lens, Kyle?
Sigma 18 to 35 millimeter.
The Sigma. So this one, and we have the EOS 77D double pixel. So it's gonna be really, like, the autofocus is instant. It's, I think it can shoot 4K. It's got the ability to, like, it's gonna be super crisp. If you follow some YouTubers like Graham Stephan, it's the same lens that he has now. So I'm really up in the game, stepping it up. We got 3 cameras set up, my old one, the other one with the lenses, and then this new one. So we're gonna try to take some of the footage from the Wise Wealth Wednesday and hopefully make it into like some social media snaps or just throw it into a cool video for you guys. So anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. You guys don't know yet. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you guys should. Check me out on Instagram. Hey, thanks. Appreciate that. Yeah, we're getting there. You know what I'm gonna do? Kyle and I have committed that we are gonna literally release a video Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We talked to some people and that was the recommended feedback time. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm gonna try to stick to that cadence. Hey, some guy, how you doing? I'm gonna try to stick to Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Wednesday's always going to be, yeah, the live streams will always be a little bit less of the quality there because I'm shooting from the iPhone, but the videos we're gonna be shooting are gonna be really sweet quality. And we use this B-tape footage for, offcuts and stuff like that and social media and stuff. So anyway, what have I been up to? I've been up to a lot. My partner and I are building this awesome property management company and holdings company, and we are basically tackling some big things. We offered on a 15-unit apartment building this week. So I don't have an answer on that, how that's gonna go or what's gonna go down with that, but it was a real wreck. It was one of the roughest I've seen in a while, a huge project. So I'm really excited to see if we get our teeth into that. We picked up a condo property downtown, and I finalized today a property as well. So I'm excited about that. You guys don't know this, but on Monday, a nail biter actually, over the weekend, I saw a property in my neighborhood, 2 blocks away in Northwest London. If you know London, Northwest London is the highest average income of London. So the wealthiest people tend to live in North and Northwest London. Doesn't mean they're better people, it just means they're wealthier. You tend to walk the street at night and feel safe. You don't feel like you're gonna be stabbed or mugged or something. I walk the street at 3 in the morning all the time when I'm on the phone or I'm getting some deals done. I'll go out for a walk around the neighborhood. So I love this area. There's some great parks, tons of natural trails, stuff like that. There's $700,000 houses not too far from me, like a block away or so. And I found this property. I've been looking for a while for sort of the next stage, the next house in the journey that would allow us to grow with the business as well. So with the business, we're going to be needing to have sometimes people stay over with us, and 3 bedrooms just wasn't enough. But I'm like, how can I house hack this? How can my business partner also stay in the property? He's going to be actually living in. We got a back suite for him, and there's going to be a 3-bedroom, 1,300 square foot lower apartment, which we're going to rent out as well to 1 or 2 guys. Yeah, so if you check me out on Instagram, you can actually see some of the pictures of the property. I'm going to post some stuff as we renovate it. It's going to get a lot nicer, but pretty stoked for it. It's 3,300 square feet in total. 2-car garage, beautiful lot, 60-something feet wide, 3-car driveway, each can park. A lot of potential in this property, and it's like 2 blocks away. And I'm thinking, I picked this property up for $415,000, guys. Now I did pay a little more than I maybe wanted. It was listed for $430,000, and I probably could have squeezed him for 410, but another offer came into play at the last hour, like it always happens. And I thought to myself, for $5,000, I can go work and make that up, that difference. I don't want to have a risk of losing this property. You know, they signed back at 420 and I negotiated a little bit down to 415, but I probably could have squeezed them for 410 if I really wanted to. But I want to talk in this segment about house hacking and basically how do you get your dream house how do you live in it for free? Because literally my mortgage, right? My mortgage, my property taxes, and my utilities are going to add up to approximately, I don't know, about what I'm going to rent the lower and the back suite for. So I'll live in the 4-bedroom main floor and upstairs and have that whole thing going. Hey, Jonathan, how you doing? And it will cover all of my mortgage, my property taxes, everything. So I'm living for free. And people think that in the higher end homes you can't do it. It is harder to find. A lot of the houses I was looking at are not built today. You know, people aren't building them to house hack them. They're building their dream house. And so they're thinking of what's nicest for them, not what's nicest for the cash flow. And so it was difficult in this neighborhood. There's probably 30 or 40 or 50 homes that would qualify. Like nice walkout basement homes do well. Hey Gary, how you doing? How do you work out the contact? How do you work out contact? I don't know what contact talking about. Contact lenses. Hey Green Sequoia, how you doing? Contract. Okay. Yeah, so I am going to be getting my real estate license, but right now I work with a couple of agents, and that's how we do things. I also buy a lot of stuff privately. So that's a good way to get deals. Some of my deals have been privately off Kijiji. I bought one off a wholesaler. You know, deals are everywhere, right? And so it's really key to kind of explore that options in front of you. If you have to buy an MLS, that's okay too. I've locked down, picked up a $125,000 house on MLS because I went $1 over asking, and they had priced it so low below market value. It was a $170,000 house. They listed it at 124.9, and they were thinking they were gonna get multiple offers because the market was crazy, and they should have. Like, things should have been such that they would have got multiple offers, but there was 3 other offers coming on the last minute, and the agent couldn't say how much we offered. That's the law here, right? So they said, well, we have an offer already and it's over asking. Do your best. And the other 3 buyers got spooked because the last couple of houses they'd offered on had all been way over asking, like 80,000 over asking. So they said, we don't even want to compete. We don't like this house enough. It needed a little bit of renovation. We don't like this house enough to go way over asking. We thought we could get it for asking, which was like $1 over ask, and they took my offer. And so in that case, yes, I paid over asking by $1, but I bought this property way under value. You know, it was a $125,000 house here in London, and it can rent for $1,600 plus utilities. Gary, sounds good. When I open a brokerage, we can go and we can hustle some real estate. I need to have that deal flow, right? The idea behind the company that we're building is controlling the deal flow and the management, right? And part of the management is property management, and part of the management is actually renovations and contracting and all that as well. So I would love, if there's a contractor out there watching this video right now, or you know someone who's in London, Ontario area, who's a really good handy guy, be a great property manager, who has an interest to learn, who'd like to come follow and learn, I'd happily coach for free and teach, right? The right person, but also someone who's handy, because they got to be able to do a little bit of the renovation work in between units, painting, floors, that kind of stuff. If you knew someone like that, who could be basically me, or someone who could learn some of the skills that I have, we need someone badly. And I am actively looking for someone to fill that role. So share that around if you know anyone who can do that role. But I'd like to focus more of my time on investor relations, on the high level planning for the renovations, going to the city, handling a lot of stuff with zoning and permits and things like that, as well as obviously the acquisitions side of things. And acquisitions is key and financing is key. I think as we expand, we're going to also look into some commercial properties. You guys have heard me rant about how much I don't like commercial multifamily, and that's because in London, you're competing with institutional investors. And when you compete with institutional investors, they have stupid cheap money. They'll get money from Sun Life for like $10 million at 2%, and they'll use that money to buy apartment buildings. And the cost of everything is much, much higher as a percentage. Property taxes as a percentage are way higher on multifamily. If you have a triplex that's renting for $10,000 a month and a 10-unit rough apartment building that's renting for $10,000 a month, the percentage of property tax is way higher on the 10-unit. You better having more bedrooms and having like a large triplex residential property at a residential property tax mill rate, because the mill rate on the property tax is different for every municipality, but in London specifically, they punish commercial, especially like retail commercial. It's brutally painful. So yeah, I'm just gonna take these off because they're giving me a bit of a, now that I'm looking close up, they're meant for more far away. Hey, how's it going, Ellie? How you doing? Zach in Kentucky, how do you usually finance your investment deals? So I go through the same channels as anyone else. I go through a broker, and I go to a mobile broker specialist. I go through a broker that pitches my deals to many different lenders, A lenders, B lenders. I've financed deals before in cash. I've financed deals together with borrowing unsecured money from people. There's a whole bunch of ways you can put together a deal. You can do vendor take back type style. So that's key too. Hey Noel, how you doing? So there's lots of ways to finance a deal, lots of ways to put it together. It is the most difficult, I think, to negotiate a vendor take back type of deal with the vendors financing you. It can be very difficult to get the unsecured financing when you're first starting out. I know I wouldn't lend to someone who's never done it before, right? It's a big risk to lend to someone who hasn't done it before, isn't a proof of concept, right? That's sort of that. Let's go up and get some questions hit out here. I think I saw some come up. Why do some MLS listings have a loft listed as a bedroom and others list them as just a loft? Is this strictly because it's not structural standards and not safe for a tenant? Okay, tell me. It depends on the listing. So a loft, like I have a loft up here in the tiny house right above me, and it's like 5 foot height. I have a full double mattress up there and you can sleep up there, no problem. But I wouldn't call that a bedroom, right? Mostly because for it to be another bedroom, like this whole tiny house would be a +1 bedroom. So if I list this unit, which I have, anyway, if you guys know anyone who wants to move into my house, it's designed, like I have structurally built this duplex like it's the best. Everything has a walk-in pantry, stainless quartz. It comes with a tiny house. I would list this, and I have listed this on Kijiji for a 3+1. So I have 3 bedrooms in the main bungalow, and then I have a +1 tiny house, right? So I can sleep people as well. So it's a 3+1 is how you'd list that. Technically, like I know in Ontario specifically with the building codes, you need 6'5" headroom in basements and attics and stuff like that. So, or lofts, whatever you want to call it, attic conversions, stuff like that. So sometimes they only have 6 foot ceiling height, or they're in a basement and they don't have an egress window. And so legally they can't list that as a bedroom because it's not a legal bedroom. But if it complied and it had over 6'5" everywhere and it had egress windows, you could list that as a bedroom. This property I just bought on, just down the street from me there, it was listed as a 4 and 4. I'm going to convert it to an 8 and 4, maybe 8 and 5. I haven't decided yet. So it'll be a 7+1 legally. It'll be seven bed +1 bed. And I'm only going to take 3+1 for myself, and then kind of have the rest for my partner, and then we're going to rent out the lower to cover the mortgage, property taxes, and utilities, so we can kind of live for free, right? That's the idea, is you want to be able to set up a scenario where you can live in, and I've actually built this. I have a property that I've been eyeing out for a long time. I don't want to tell anyone about it because when the time comes, I'm going to buy this property privately. But it's about a $2 million property here in London, and it's like a castle. It's a beautiful property. I'm eyeing it up so badly. When the time comes, I'm going to find a way to house hack that. I'm going to have the businesses in different wings of this castle. I'm going to find a way to cash flow it so the mortgage is covered by house hacking. I'm a big fan of that because the place you live can be a huge drain on your financial reserves. It's very hard to save and build a business if you're paying a mortgage and you're paying high rent and all this kind of stuff. So I do recommend rent hacking and house hacking. In this situation I'm in now, if you were to rent my place I live in right now, I would say rent the 3 bedroom, get a roommate, and then rent out the tiny house on Airbnb. I already have it up. I have 50 reviews on my Airbnb listing for this tiny house, and I was getting $39 a night, booked solid. So that's something to sort of, you could do something like that, right? And that's rent hacking, where you could effectively get your rent way, way down without even owning the property. But then if you do want to have that really nice house, a lot of people think, I can't house hack, I want a $500,000 house. Well, I'll have a $500,000 house, that's not a problem. I'm sure after I refinance this new property out, it's going to be over a $500,000 valuation for sure. And yeah, a $2 million house in London is unreal. This would be a castle. I'm talking a real 10,000 square foot castle. And I'll eventually get there probably if I keep growing and enjoying what I'm doing. For right now, I enjoy what I do. So retirement isn't really something I'm coveting. That said, we are going into Solo Students Movement September 1st, right? And it's going to be crazy. I have so many properties that need renovation right now that we're going crazy, like night and day. I'm trying to get materials and source all the guys there. It's brutal. Excited for September to come and to be done with August, because the lead up in London, we're a big student town, and so a lot of people come in September and things get really, really busy. And so, tired, looking forward to that ending. But yeah, let's hit some questions because I saw some more pop up here. Okay, did I miss one here? Okay, if so, what are the costs required for turning a loft into a usable bedroom? So you'd have to find a way to, sorry, my foot just hit the camera stand. You'd have to find a way to convert, so in a basement, for instance, if it was a basement bedroom, you have to cut in the foundation and put in a big egress window that complies to current codes. So in Ontario, a 3 foot by 2 foot window will do you. So 36 by 24 inches, that's what I always put in. Gets illegal, and the window is actually on, so it has to be a window that removes the glass. So it's a hinge style that pops out, so the whole window becomes an opening. If you're going to do like a slider, it'd have to be 36/24 in the slider portion that opens, so the openable portion to escape. So that's why I always put they're called like oh shoot, they're like a hinge style window. I can't think of the name right now, but they're like the ones you sometimes see in kitchens. I put them always in all of my rental units because it's a really easy way to maximize like a smaller-ish window to get that legal compliance. Other things too, sometimes you have to put in, you need like 2 means of escape as well from a place. If you're going through below 6'5" headroom to get to the bedroom, it can't be legal. So unless you get a grandfather or something like that. With a loft, you'd probably, if it's on the 3rd story, you have to put a set of stairs through the outside. So there's an escape to get out. Just knowing the code, right? There's certain things you have to do to keep a place, legal. Now you can still rent a bedroom out. I mean, you could rent the house to a family on one lease, and as long as you're not renting out with individual contracts, like a lease for each bedroom, then you're okay. If they use that as a bedroom, that's their choice. You just listed them the unit. You rented them the 3-bedroom unit. Just so happens one of the bedrooms is in a loft. Who cares? That's sort of my thoughts on the matter. I ran into someone here in London. You guys don't know this, but I ran into someone in London here who was on the Property Standards Council, and 2 people actually. I want to do a video with them to talk to them about some of the bylaw standards in London and do a video that will educate people who are in London to learn about the Ontario Building Code and some of the options that exist, because you can actually appeal certain decisions that have been made for $150 here in London. Like if there's an issue with headroom, you only have 6'4", you can appeal that. A lot of people don't know you can actually appeal that, and there's a committee that reviews that. So it's good to learn about some of that stuff. And I want to do a video on that for people because I think that would be valuable for landlords who are starting out and wondering what's legal, what isn't legal, what can I do, what can't I do. And a lot of it you just learn, right? In the beginning I was very paranoid about anything that wasn't legal, right? I was like, oh no, I don't want to get in trouble, I don't want to get fined. And I found out that it's more about, usually the people will work with you, right? They're not just going to fine you, because it's, especially if you didn't know, they're often going to work with you and help you find a solution. A lot of times I just had to cut an egress window, or maybe I had to change the stairs a little bit so that the headroom would be there. If it was a loft, you might be able to re-engineer something, rebuild it in a way that it complies, right? Okay, let's hit another question up here, guys. What are your preferred ways / the best ways to find good deals in cash flowing properties? New real estate investor looking to get started. So Zach in Kentucky, a lot of people say wholesaling is the best way to get into real estate, and I don't disagree with that. But I think there are other great ways to get involved in real estate too. Wholesaling is difficult because you need to have, so as a wholesaler, you effectively go out and you lock up a deal. So you have to find people who want to sell, and you knock on doors and whatever, and you find deals and you lock them up. But you need to have cash to put down a deposit to lock that deal up. And you have to know a network of investors who want to buy that deal. So that's very tricky to put those together. I think being a wholesaler is a more advanced skill. It's very difficult to take on fresh out of the gate. People can do it. I know there are people who are really good at sales, and they have a great network and they're good social people. They can pull it off. But I think wholesaling, when I read about wholesaling, I just thought it was too intimidating, and I was just too afraid. So I got into rental properties with my first property as a house hack, and I recommend that's the place to start. So maybe don't live in your dream home as the first house. I think you'd probably be smarter living in any home, renting a place and rent hacking it, or buying a home and house hacking it and renting out unused portions of the house to cover your living expenses. That's a great way to start. And I think it's a great way as an entrepreneur. If you want to go down that route, people reach out to me. They say, hey, I'm 18 years old and I want to get into the entrepreneurial stream. I want to, I'm moving from Toronto, I'm moving to London, and I'm just going to start this business, X and Y business. What do you recommend, Mike? And I said, the first thing I recommend is find a way to rent or house hack. That will get your living costs down to zero. That's the most important thing. As an entrepreneur, if you have to take money from your business to support your lifestyle, you're more likely to fail, right? It's a lot harder. If you're living for for no cost. You got a rent hack situation where you're renting an apartment for $1,800 a month, and you get, it's a 4-bedroom, and you get 3 roommates at $600 a piece. That's $1,800, right? The remaining $200 is really cheap living. You're living in this house now for $200 a month. Or you can do better scenarios where you rent a 4-bedroom for $1,500 a month. Happens all the time here in London, and you get 3 roommates at $550 a piece, right? And so now you're making money. I know people in London here that are rent controlled. They've been doing this for 5 years. They got leases that are rent controlled back 5 years ago rents. They're paying $1,200 a month for a 4-bedroom, and they rent out the rooms, and they move on and get another place, but they still keep the lease going, and they sublet the rooms out, and they actually make money on a rental with 0 money in. So that's the place to start, is go rent a place and then sublet rooms out and live there for free. That's so key, right? If you can live for free, that's just, yeah, I mean, that's the ultimate. As an entrepreneur, if you don't need to take any money from your business and you can reinvest everything, you have a huge edge over someone who has to take a salary to survive, to support their family. And so when you're young, you can afford to make those mistakes. If you can house hack, that's key. Go TO says, are you high? No, I'm not high right now. What? But yeah, so that's London rents. I know people that house hack you sound like Toronto, and in Toronto too, actually. I know people that rent hack, that they use Airbnb they rent an apartment. I know someone who rented an apartment, I think it was a 2+ den, and they rented it, I think, for $2,000 a month, and they got 2 roommates. I'm not high right now. They got 2 roommates, and they're getting charging them $1,000 each, and they're living for free in Toronto, right? So anywhere this can be done. Let's keep going with the questions here. So yeah, you can house hack, rent hack anywhere. That's what I wanted to talk about today, was kind of how it works. People have specific questions on how it works. It's very, very simple, I think. There might be some nuances and pieces you have to kind of entertain and think about when you're renting a place from a landlord. Just be upfront, explain to him what you're doing a little bit. Once you're locked in though, like, the landlord has a really hard time evicting someone. You can have roommates and they can't do anything about it. I have a place right now where this old lady has 2 roommates, and she rents my 3-bedroom from me, and she rents out the other 2 to people to cover her entire rent. So she lives for 0. And that's a really difficult situation for a landlord, especially when the rents get way under market value. Like, rents keep climbing at 6-8%, and she's been locked in for 10 years. And the previous owner of the property didn't increase her rents, so I can only do 1.8% or whatever. It's a very tricky situation to be in. And I definitely recommend, if you're looking to get into being an entrepreneur or looking to get into real estate, go rent somewhere. And if you want to get into real estate, you can appreciate putting in tenants, like learning how to place ads, take good pictures, and put up a listing, right? Learn how to write a really good listing on Craigslist, on Kijiji. That's a really valuable skill. Like, that's probably one of the most valuable things you can do as a landlord, as a property manager, as a real estate agent. All of those, like, that's a really good skill. Start renting and leasing places. That's the place to start. And if you have no capital, I mean, go rent an apartment, right? You don't need any money. You don't have to buy the house at all. Just rent it. Then you have control over the space. You can sublet it, put on Airbnb, etc. I'll explain it in a second here. What I just saw that question pop up. I will get to that question in just a sec. Okay. Hey, Mike. Really enjoying your videos. Hoping to get your thoughts on whether the BRRRR investing strategy is still valid when using a purchase plus improvements mortgage. Jake Wing says. So Jake Wing, yes, totally. You can still do the BRRRR investing strategy. It is still valid with the purchase plus improvements. It's a guaranteed way to get your refinance, right? So there's kind of 2 ways you can do the BRRRR, right? The buy, renovate, rent out, and then repeat, right? Sorry, refinance. I missed the refinance in there. So you buy it, you renovate it, you rent it out, you have the lease in hand, you get an appraiser in there, and then you repeat the strategy. So that's the BRRRR. The BRRRR works with so purchase plus improvements. I don't know if you guys all know what that is, but the purchase plus improvements is where you get a quote done on a property up to 20% of the purchase price. And when you buy the property, say it's a $300,000 property, hypothetically, 20% of that is $60,000. So you can submit a quote with the property. You buy it at $300,000, and you submit a quote to the lender, and the underwriter reviews it for $60,000. You say, I'm going to do $60,000 in work on this property. Now, here's where it gets cool. You could then do that work for $20,000 and resubmit a completed invoice from someone, and say to the lender, okay, I completed the work, 60 days later, whatever, go back to the lender. It's already approved. The lender approves it when they set the mortgage up. So they say yes, on close they say yes, we'll lend you 80% loan to value on this property. and we'll give you 80% of 60 grand. We'll give you 60 grand. Yeah, they give you the whole 60 grand. We'll give you the 60 grand when you submit an invoice, when the work is done. We'll send the same appraiser back out, and he'll look at a checklist and see if you did everything that you said you were going to do in the beginning. If you did, we'll issue you 60 grand like that. There's no reappraisal, no refinance at the same interest rate as your old mortgage. It's all lumped in together. That's a purchase plus improvements. So the only way this works really well, I think, is if you can get the renovations done for a lot less than what the invoice is for, which could involve you to have a friend who would write you an invoice, or you could craft one. I'm not going to say to do that, but that is one strategy I've seen people do. And I've seen people do that and it worked. I'm not recommending it, but then you'd basically gain that 40,000. So if you put 40,000 down payment and you have the purchase plus improvements, then you get that. That's how you do it with a CMHC mortgage. So a private mortgage insurance type mortgage. You put 5% down payment, and then you do the purchase plus improvements for 60 grand. And if you only put 5% down on that deal, you put 15,000 down on a $300,000 house, you get 60,000 back, right? Then effectively you get your whole 15,000 back, plus you'd profit. So you'd have enough for another 5% down on another property. So that's the purchase plus improvement style of getting a full cash out refi. The reason this isn't, so it sometimes bites you in the butt. If you don't go this way, and you end up with, an appraisal that sucks. They come back and they say, this improved the value 70 grand, and we'll give you 80% of that. So instead of the 100% of the 60K, they give you, 80% or 75% of this new appraised amount. You have to put a new interest rate on, so interest rates could have risen since your last mortgage. You have to get reapproved. With a refinance, you have to get reapproved again. You go through the lending process. Say you lost your job or something changed, you have to get reapproved, so it's a risk, right? You start the project, you finish it, you have to go back for a reappraisal when everything's done, and with the lender, you get a new the old first mortgage is removed, new first mortgage put on the property, pay out the old one, you get the difference between the old mortgage and the new mortgage. And you're relying at the mercy of the appraiser. The purchase plus improvements model is one where you effectively take the they will issue a first, and they will register that first at $60,000 higher on title, and they'll hold back when they close. They'll have a $60,000 holdback, so they'll register higher than the purchase price on title of the property. So there's no extra legal fees. Other option, when you refinance, there's a bit of extra legal fees to do that. Now with the refinance, if you have a really juicy property, like if I buy a $200,000 property and it's worth 400 ARV after, the purchase plus improvements caps out at 20%. You can't do more than 20% of your original purchase price. But if I have a $200,000 to $400,000 property, I'm gonna be at I'll be well over what a purchase plus improvements could give me back. With a real juicy deal like that, I could pull out all of my down payment and 100 grand for myself, or 150 grand for myself. So in those juicy deals, I recommend the typical refinance strategy. But yeah, the purchase plus improvements, it does work relatively well. I'm doing one right now. The challenge is you have 120 days to finish it, and I had some major issues in this house, and so we're now over the 120-day mark. We had a bunch of stuff that was unforeseen, and now I have to get the appraiser in when it isn't finished. So I'm gonna get a percentage of the draw. So I got like 85 or 90%, probably get 95% of my original purchase plus improvements agreement. So that's really crappy. Whereas if I was doing the other strategy, I could just refinance it and be good to go. So that's the downside, I guess. The purchase plus improvements is like you're guaranteed. If you do what you say you're going to do, he doesn't even appraise the property. The appraiser comes back in and says, yes, you did what you did. Done. He doesn't give any opinion on the value of the property. He just says, is what was said you were going to do, was it done? And the answer is yes or no. So it's like a yes or no. The nice thing about that is it's guaranteed. No matter what, you're getting that 60,000 back, hypothetically on a $300,000 house. So that's something to think about when you're doing the BRRRR strategy. I'm a big fan of the BRRRR strategy. I didn't know about the BRRRR strategy my first 4 deals. I remember on my 4th deal, I found out about it. Like I actually sort of through a lender, we kind of had a discussion. Like I'm like, could I just put another first mortgage on and remove the old one and then refinance that? And they're like, yeah, that's the refinance. And I'm like, oh, well, couldn't you do that with tons of properties? Couldn't you buy undervalued assets and continue to do that again and again? And I discovered it, and I was like, wow, I've uncovered this model. Like I buy it, I renovate it, I rent it out, and then I refinance it. And everyone's like, and then I started talking to someone in like 2015, 2016, some real estate investor, and he didn't know it was called a BRRRR, but I remember talking to someone else and he said, oh yeah, like that's a BRRRR. I was like, you guys knew about this? And they're like, yeah, biggerpockets.com, this new website started up. I'm like, what? And like my mind was blown. Like in 2015, I was like, whoa, because I was a lone wolf. There was no, like people weren't talking about this. There were no YouTubers that I could find that were doing this, and I had no one in my network. No one was telling me. I was just saving, working really hard, saving everything, and then finding a way to get financing, right? So once I discovered all this knowledge and built the network, it was like from 4 properties to like, I've probably purchased over 30 properties now. Definitely over 30 properties now with the one a week we're buying, right? You guys know I'm buying 1 property each and every week. And yeah, every single week I'm buying a property, no matter what. And it's going to start becoming commercial properties, everything. As long as the numbers work, we're going to keep buying. So yeah, I don't know when I'm going to scream for like, no more please, like no more beatings. But right now I'm just accepting the beatings, because think of all the tenant problems, all the headaches, all the renovations I'm gonna have to deal with each and every property. There's probably 20, 30, 40, 50 hours of work associated with closing a deal and getting tenants in there and renovating, all this kind of stuff, right? So I really need to get the systems in place. We have them in place, but I need more people, more manpower. We've got a few really good guys, but we just need more. So that's where it's at. That's what's good in the world of Rosehart. Okay, let's go up here and hit the next question. I scrolled too far. Okay, what are preferred best ways to find good deals? I missed that a little bit. So I talked a little bit about Kijiji, private door knocking. Networking is fantastic. I can't tell you how many times, guys, I've reached out to someone in a network who says, oh yeah, I know someone who has a property. Every time I buy a property, like I just closed on one, and he gave me the number to someone else, his neighbor. He said, oh yeah, my neighbor's got a duplex there, the grass is long. He'd probably want to sell. And that's a great example of just through the network, meeting people, and that's sort of your best way to kind of get deals. I find the best deals have been privately like that, because you got a motivated seller, there's no agents involved, you can have a conversation, they're not worried about commissions. I'll often go in as the buyer and say, hey, I'll pay your closing costs. So I'll pay the seller's closing costs, I'll hook up with the lawyer. Often they don't even know any lawyers. I'll send them like 4, they can pick one, and I'll pay out the legal costs, because actually people don't know this, but the cost to actually sell a property is not very much. Like you can sell a property, legal fees and disbursements in for like $700. So they think I'm giving them this whole ton of value, all their closing costs, because they remember when they bought the property, they paid land transfer tax, they paid, it's a lot heavier on the buy side. There's like probably $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 in closing costs. On the buy side, legal fees be like $1,100, but obviously land transfer tax, etc. On the sell side, it's literally just, it's very simple to sell. So excited for these questions. I see them popping up here, and I like that. I like to get the people's noodles kind of stimulated and get those. Hopefully by the end of it, your noodle's so soggy, you're like, oh, I got to wring it out. Too much knowledge. So yeah, that's sort of my thoughts on that. Also, private financiers will do vendor takebacks. Hey, Michael, how you doing? Welcome on. They'll do vendor takebacks. So the vendor will finance it. They own it in cash. They're an old person. They own it in cash. They're willing for you to take over their headaches. So you take over the property, and they'll provide you a 90% of the purchase price mortgage. You give them 10% in cash on close, and they just basically hold the rest in a mortgage, and you make interest and mortgage payments to them. I know a couple that wanted to rent a place. They owned a place, and it was really rough. They had no money to renovate it. It's falling apart. And that deal was a perfect one for someone to go in and do vendor take back, because they didn't know, once they get that $100,000, they wouldn't know what to do with it. They don't know how to invest it. They don't know how to create any income. How are they gonna, that money will be gone in like 2 years, they'll blow it. But if I held a vendor take back mortgage, I could do a forced savings plan for them and pay them, say, a 5% interest rate. Now all of a sudden they got $1,000 a month in a mortgage payment coming to them for the next 20 years, let's say, right? And that $1,000 a month is paying their rent. And so a vendor take back scenario is way more attractive than a cash offer. A lot of people go in thinking, they think that their views on money are the same as the seller's view on money, right? And the buyer and the seller can have different views on money, right? Like I come in there rude and say, I'll make you a cash offer, I'm a big time investor. That isn't always the right strategy. Sometimes I go in and, I'm a good Christian guy and I relate to them. And we have a person-to-person conversation, and we relate on certain levels, and we talk about things that matter. We talk about their kids and their family, and we strategize and talk about ways that I can help them, maybe move all their stuff out of their property. They don't know any movers. They don't know how they're gonna orchestrate that. That's huge value add. And if you think, sometimes people think cash offer is the most attractive, sometimes it isn't. Sometimes, I know some buyers, I even know a property right now for sale in Toronto where, you could message me about this if you want, it's a family member's family member. So distantly related to me, but they have a property in Toronto, it's like a triplex or something, that they probably want to get rid of. And they would love, I'm sure, to hold a vendor take back as an example, right? Where they would love to have that steady income, even at 3-4%. If they could have, on $1 million house, they could have $40,000 a year in interest. That's a win for the investor, and it's a win for the seller, and they own it in cash, they have no mortgage. That would be a great example of where a vendor take-back scenario works really well, and you can put maybe 5-10% down. You don't have to do the same rigmarole and stress that you would through a normal lending process because you're doing it all privately. And so yeah, you can create win-win scenarios all the time. That's definitely a way to get a good deal, I think. A good deal is one where it works for you, right? So maybe you don't get the best purchase price up front, but if the vendor's providing the financing, that's a ton of additional value. I would say that's a great deal for you if you told me you bought a property at market value and the vendor put all the financing together. That's key. I think that's still a good deal. I'd be proud of you for doing that deal because that was a deal you couldn't have done otherwise. And maybe you didn't get the best deal on the purchase price, but you got a really good deal on the financing. So you can get wins all around. That's the key thing, is just small base hits. You want to keep winning every day. Okay, let's hit some questions up here, guys. Scrolling up, what are some tips on semi-accurately estimating rehabs? So Tommy, I definitely recommend going with a checklist or a spreadsheet. I go back to the same Excel spreadsheet that I always use and has the same sort of items, and I can look at what it costed me in previous projects, and I use that as a metric. But I use rules of thumb. So for instance, the laminate or vinyl plank. I like vinyl plank. I hate laminate. Laminate always gets water in between the seams and it starts to buckle. It also gets like the separation. It doesn't last and wear as well with tenants. But vinyl plank click, fantastic. Big fan of the vinyl plank. I've done like the stay place. I've done the peel and stick. I've done it all. But I like the click especially. It's really nice. The vinyl plank click, you'll pay a little bit more for it in the upfront. Same cost to install it. But this stuff, you could pee. I've had a tenant pee on the floor and I just wipe it up. Like nothing. You pee on laminate, it soaks into the wood and it splits in the seams, right? You have a dog, you scratch it up. The vinyl plank, it's like you just wipe it away. The plastic is very resilient, very strong, thick wear layer, and it feels like hardwood. Like this is vinyl plank in my tiny house. I wish I could take this camera and show you guys. Maybe I will. That right there, vinyl plank. You guys see that? Big fan of that. Sorry to shake the camera. Big fan of that stuff. Looks like hardwood. If I did a picture from far away, you see this and you'd be like, wow, it looks really high end, great finish, has a thick, nice grain to it. But I could pee on this floor and it'd be fine. I could dump a cup of water. If I go to bed with a glass of water beside my bed and it spills, it's fine. It's very strong, very resilient. So I definitely recommend putting that in all my rental properties. I do not put laminates in anymore. Not a big fan of the laminates. But anyway, let's keep going with what we were talking about, costing out renovation. You just get to learn, right? Like $1 a square foot for labor to install flooring. So I just say, okay, how many square feet are here? 1,000 square feet, $1,000 in labor approximately to install this flooring. Oh, painting, I know the cost. Trim, I know the cost per linear foot that a guy will install trim for. You find those metrics out by talking to contractors. In the beginning, I would bring through like 3 contractors for my showing. And I pay them 20 bucks each or something to walk through the house. And for 40 bucks, it's like a cheap home inspection. And they come through and they cost everything. It's like a home inspection. I have one guy who's writing a list of all the deficiencies, all the problems in the property. And then I bring another guy who'd be going through and costing it all out. And I'd ask the two of them separately to quote me on the cost of it after. And they, like, without talking to each other, so I could get a real idea of what it would cost to get this project done. And that's key. Like, that was one of my key success factors. I never hired a home inspector. I would go through myself and look in the attic. I'd go through with 2 contractors and look for what they looked for. And so they were like amateur home inspectors effectively, but they were also quoting the job. So they were looking to see how much it would cost to do the work. And that's really important because most home inspectors don't do that. They just give you a list of problems. They don't give you a solution. They just give you a list of problems. And I like to have solutions, not just problems. So yeah, big fan of bringing a couple contractors through, getting some quotes. If you have an issue with the foundation, you identify, you bring in another special guy in, you book another showing that same day if you can, you get him out there and he's looked at the foundation, he gives you a quote. Quotes are really key because you get professional experts who are going to actually fix this problem to tell you what is wrong with it and what it would cost to fix it. So important before you put an offer in. Every one of my first 10 properties I bought, I did this. I had probably 5 contractors go through and identify all the problems. Now I've done it so many times, I can go quickly through a house and I can know what to look for and what it will cost to fix. But really pro tip is get a contractor to go through with you to help you estimate those costs. You'll eventually learn how to do that just by having those guys go through with you. You'll learn, this costs a couple thousand, this costs $1,000. Oh, countertops, they cost me $1,500 last time. That's what it'll cost me. Oh, on Kijiji, I got a fridge and stove for 200 bucks each. I know I can do that again this time. Or, et cetera, et cetera. Windows cost me $4,000 to do the house. That was 450 bucks a window installed. I could probably do it again for that. So now you have a metric in your head, 500 bucks a window. That's sort of one of my metrics that I use. But yeah, so you learn shortcuts, right? And schemas, they're called mental schemas. Mental schemas are effectively things in your brain, shortcuts in your brain. The problem with mental schemas is you get stuck in the grain of using those. And sometimes you need to change those mental schemas as the environments change. But mental schemas are really effective. It's how human beings are able to to basically parse large amounts of data and information and make accurate decisions, because we use rules of thumb and schema. Okay, let's hit another question, guys. I think I did those questions already. That question's been done up. Let's go down here. Mike, if someone wanted to invest with you and wanted to go to the vendor take-back route, would you be open to that? So Jonas, yeah, it's tricky, right? The vendor take-back route is tricky. Could I help an investor find a vendor take-back scenario? I think yes. I think very much so, very possible, could do that. I normally, the way when I partner with an investor, I like to partner with an investor that's going to buy a minimum 5 properties over a 2-year span. I don't have time. Like if I'm going to buy 100 or 1,000 properties, I honestly just don't have time to talk to 100 investors, to update them, once a month on what's going on. It's just too much for me to manage all of that. So for me, it's just too much to manage all that. So for me, I'm trying to find investors that can do, 5 deals kind of thing. But yeah, if you wanted me to help you find a vendor take back, I could assist you with that for sure. It's hard to do it through real estate agents, like through MLS, because agents don't like vendor take back scenarios. They don't want to get involved in it. They don't want to arrange it. They're worried about the deal falling apart and not getting paid. They just want to get paid, right? So agents are always focused on that. If I ever become an agent, when I become an agent later this month or whatever, I'm never going to do that. Like I'm not going to do it. I don't want to be hunting for the money. It just feels wrong. Same when I was a financial planner. It just didn't feel right. Like it doesn't feel right when you're trying to sell something and you're motivated by needing to eat. Like I think most, like the best real estate agents, the best financial planners especially, are ones that are financially independent, that aren't after the paycheck, that can afford to eat if you don't buy. So that's, my best advice, because when they're motivated in that way, it can lead to some pressure that leads them down the wrong road to give you the wrong advice. So sort of my thoughts on that. But yeah, you could orchestrate a vendor take back scenario. I don't know where I would add value in that, like how I would help. I guess I could manage the property, manage the renovations and stuff like that, and add value in that way. Yeah, I guess if I was orchestrating the financing, it'd make more sense for me to just take the deal, because I'm the only value, like I'd be providing all the value, basically the money, the management, and the deal, right? If I was doing all 3 of those, I would just do it myself. The investor has to provide some sort of value in some way, and because I always do the management myself, the renovations and the property management, and I find the deals, then I basically control 2/3. I need the investor to bring the other bit of value for the relationship to make sense. On a coaching side, like if I was to coach you, I could coach you through finding those deals and working through all of that. I guess I would just take a percentage of the deal or something, or not a percentage of the deal, percentage of the profit on the sale or refinance of the deal. Yeah, I guess there must be some coaches out there that don't charge fee-based. I feel like fee-based coaching is kind of tough. I'd be a big fan of doing like a percentage of profit. So if my student were to succeed, then I too would succeed. And so then I would only take on students that I believed could succeed. Yeah, I don't know. My sort of thoughts on that. Because a lot of people take these coaching programs and they waste their money and they do nothing with the coaching information. They go to these seminars, they spend thousands and they do nothing with that. And the seminar people take their fee and that's how they make their money. And they don't care if you take action. They just have to throw in these big events and that's how they get paid. Thinking of some big guys that do this in the States. And I'm not a big fan of those guys. It feels kind of snaky. Okay. This question, how do you finance your investment deals? I talked about that question already. LEC, how you doing? Sale Comedy, how you doing? It's good that you reached out there on Insta. I'm glad you're here checking things out. Even if you get one nugget of value out of this for the hour that you spend, it's probably worth it. Alex says, woo, $2 million house, Rosehart. Yeah, yes, maybe. If I did, it would be, I have it on my dream board in the house. You guys can't see it here because I'm in the tiny house right now. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I have to have a reason or pursuit to want to keep growing, right? And so now that I'm growing this business and I have all this money coming in, I feel like I should spend at least some of it. I'm the type of person that will probably always save 80-90% of what I make. So if I start making $1 million a year, you guys know I'm probably gonna have to spend $100,000 a year just to stay within that ratio of spending 10% of what I earn. It's all relative to what you earn, right? If you're spending $100,000 a year and you make 120, I mean, those are some tight margins. You need to bring the lifestyle down a bit or bring the income way up. And until you bring the income up, you can't bring the lifestyle up with it. You got to earn that. I'm a big fan of earning the lifestyle that you live, or you house hack it. You find a way to basically live in the house for free, which is what I'm doing. I don't even need to work. I've still set up my scenario where I never need to work. And so I feel really confident in getting up every day and knowing that I'm doing what I do because I love it, not because I need to do it. So I can never buy that castle until I need like a 10 million plus net worth before I'd be comfortable investing in a castle. And it would be cool. And I don't think I won't have earned the castle until I'm king of London. So when I'm king of London, of 500,000 people, and I have 1,000 properties here, then I'll have earned it. I'll be the biggest landlord here. So then I'll have earned the castle. I got to earn that. That's the ego, guys. That's the ego. I need to put that ego down and just stay humble. Stay humble. Okay, let's do some more questions, guys. Hey, Martin, how you doing? Great to see you on. Tagger Rocks, how you doing? Currently pay $510 all included with the girlfriend. Wow, $510. So you're like $250 each, $255 each. Wow, that's some affordable rent right there. You should never buy a house. Keep that lease going forever. You're probably living below cost. That's a scenario where wow, you guys don't know this, but maybe you do know this. I might have shared this by now, but I rented a place for $295 a month, all inclusive, when I was going through school. Most of my friends are paying $450, $500 for a nice bedroom, but I took a small bedroom, right? Decided it was a better choice. And I decided to go with a one-bedroom apartment for $595 a month. And really? Someone's outside the window. We should have left the windows open, maybe. But yeah. But he's not Catholic. Well, whatever. You guys probably can't pick that up anyway. It's so far away. We could close the windows or get Elise to move. She doesn't know that I'm probably doing a live stream right now. She's talking right outside the window. That's okay. Can you guys even hear that? Can you hear her on the phone? Does it bother you? It's gonna get hot in here, but oh well. The windows are closed. What was I saying? I lost my train of thought. I was trying to listen to her phone call. Okay, we'll go on to the next question. Maybe it'll spark my memory. What is the market value of the castle? Probably like $2.5 million. It's a good chunk of land and beautiful property here in London. It's one of the few castles. Really excited about that one. I would love to buy that. So bad, so bad. It's just a beautiful property, 3-story. It's a duplex. It has a servants' quarters in it and stuff. So I don't want to share too much because I want someone to buy that property on me. That would suck. 2 million house in London would be nuts. Check his property walkthrough. You see them. I don't know what he's talking about. You see them. I forget what I was talking about that time. I bought a property with 2 units that are leased for under market value. How do you increase the rent by a few hundred to get market value rent? Don Davies. Okay, so Don, this is like the recurring issue that I always have, and it's hard to speak about this legally. There are many ways to remove a tenant, but the best answer is to remove the tenant. Get the tenants out and start again. You can renovate the unit and then time the renovation such that they can't move back in, like at halfway through the month, and they have trouble moving back in. There are ways, get them to sign an N11 or an N9 in Ontario. The N9 is them giving you notice to leave, and the N11 is you to agreeing to leave. I would get both signed, but the N9 holds up the best at the landlord-tenant board in court. So big fan of getting the N9 signed. That's them giving you notice, agreeing to leave. If you have to pay them to sign that, it's worth it. If you're gonna get $300 more a month in rent, I would give like 2 months rent, 2 months rent differential, right? The differential between what they're paying and what the market value is for the rent to get them out. I've heard stories in California of people who are on rent control being paid $100,000 to leave their rental unit because it's rented so far below market value. The owner just wants the property to be vacant. They would beg for that. I'm a big fan of the Airbnb as well because Airbnb allows for, the nice thing about Airbnb is that you can just cancel the reservation. They're a short-term tenant. The Residential Tenancy Act, RTA, which the Landlord-Tenant Board uses as their law, the RTA doesn't apply. Residential Tenancy Act does not apply to short-term rentals. So you could just zip, get out. You can raise the rents. You can do whatever you want on a short-term rental. So I'm a big fan of that. Yeah, that's sort of my thoughts on getting rid of tenants. We could do a whole video on horror stories I've had with tenants. And there are ways to get tenants out. There are some creative ways I've heard of people getting tenants out using, an Eastern European guy might just show up and deal with things, right? Drag them out. There are ways to get tenants out. You don't want to do that yourself. You don't get yourself in trouble, but there are ways to get tenants out. You could place a really bad tenant beside a good tenant and get them out that way. That's a strategy that's worked before. You can renovate a unit beside them very loudly and make their life a living hell to get them out. You can just, honestly, the best way is keys for cash. I found that's the easiest way. The first approach is always just talking to them and saying, hey, can I help you find a new place, et cetera, and just have them leave willingly. That would be ideal. If they're not paying rent, it's easy to evict them. That's a great way. N4 notice, gone. If they're disturbing other tenants and causing problems, N5 notice, and you can go twice to the board and then they're removed, get them evicted. Yeah, I just got an eviction order on a property and it felt real good. We might have to get the sheriff from this property to get her out. But yeah, landlord-tenant board, it's good fun. I would have preferred to pay cash. I lost the landlord-tenant board once and had to pay. We actually changed the locks on a guy and I just stood there and said, no, you're not coming in. And they took me to the board and they got $1,000 in damages because I unlawfully evicted them. You know what? I'm glad the guy was gone. He was a real dirtbag and he was a druggie, selling coke out of my unit. He was doing the worst things. So the value of, I'd rather pay $1,000 fine. And we literally dragged him out and changed the locks. I mean, we didn't drag him out, but like, you know, we changed the locks on him, right? We unlawfully evicted him. We gave him 60 days notice, but he didn't care. So anyway, it takes about 6 months because they're so backed up. So to get actual proper eviction, it takes like six months. I've heard stories of a year to get tenants out. It's a real pain. But I'm sort of in the business of doing that. So I buy a lot of properties with bad tenants in them and I get them out. And then I bring in good tenants and that can add a lot of value. I've seen people buy properties with under-rented units, do it like almost no work to them. Just get the tenants out, clean it, and then put new tenants in. And the property is now worth $50,000 more because the rents were suppressing the value because the NOI, net operating income, couldn't sustain a mortgage at such valuation. Once the new rent is higher, then it changes the valuation of the property because, you know, especially if you're selling it to an investor cares about cash flow. And if the property didn't have cash flow before, no investors would want it, so you'd buy it, turn it into a property that investors would want. And so one of those ways of adding value, of arbitraging, is just getting bad tenants out, putting good tenants in, renovating if it needs renovation, etc. Those are ways to add value to a deal. Okay, let's go down. I bought a property with 2 units. We talked about that question. I hit that one up. I'm not high. Would the BRRRR strategy work on a personal home as the first investment? You remove the rent and then leverage into your first investment property. Jake, yeah, totally. 2 of the properties I lived in, I did that. This new property, I don't know if I'll do the purchase plus improvements. I may, or I might just refinance it out. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do on that property. I haven't financed it yet. I still have time. It closes September 28th. So you guys, I promise I give a walkthrough. I'll give you guys a walkthrough. We'll shoot with the new camera we've got, a really cool walkthrough of the tiny house and a really cool walkthrough of my house. And so you guys can see exactly what I live in. If anyone wanted to move in this house, like my house here, and take the tiny house over, that'd be cool too, because I need a really good tenant in here, one that will take care of the place and keep good quality for it, for when I sell it 5 years down the line or whatever. But right now I want to keep it. It's got a mortgage on it. Things are good. Yeah, you can totally do it. And then leverage into your first investment property. Yeah, so appraisers use the comparable analysis approach if you live in the property. So yeah, it works just fine. You get an appraisal the same way. Just make sure you're relying on the comps rather than the NOI. Because if you're living in there, the appraiser is going to assume the comparable analysis approach, where they're going to find other comparables in the area. So you'd find other comparables that have sold. If they've sold at 300, you bought this at 200, you spend 20. You might be able to comp out at 300 and get a nice refi. You could do the purchase plus improvements as well and get like just that clean 50 grand back or whatever, this, depending on the size of the deal, up to 20% of what you purchased it for. Is it legal to rent the whole house, then that person to rent individual rooms? So Kunik, yes. It is legal to, you can have roommates. The law states they cannot stop you from having roommates. They have no control over that. You can also sublet. It's tricky. Some places require you to have the tenants. So if you live there, you can do whatever you want. If you move out of the unit and then you sublet that unit out on Airbnb or you just re-rent it to someone else, most landlords are okay with that, but you're supposed to get the landlord's permission. So you ask them and say, hey, most landlords don't want to clean the unit. Turnover is a really expensive thing. Every time a tenant turns over, you got to change, you got to clean the floors, you got to clean the unit, you got to recaulk stuff, you got to paint. It's a real headache. It's a real pain. So I don't like turnover. If a tenant said, hey, I'll not leave for $25 a month less rent, I'd probably take that just to not have the headache. I mean, it depends on the mood I'm in, but okay, let's get some of these questions. I'm falling behind. All the questions are coming in and falling behind on this stuff. So yeah, it is totally legal. You can totally get roommates. They can't stop you doing that. I've heard some things about Airbnb being stopped, but in single family houses, if you just get roommates, you go on Craigslist or Kijiji and get roommates, they can't stop you. You're allowed to do that. You can have your girlfriend, boyfriend move in, whatever, no problem. East Coast, I didn't know you could house hack while renting. Wouldn't a landlord be against this? No. No, not necessarily. I know some landlords that would be totally down for this. I'm actually down for this. I rent out a place and I have people that re-rent out the rooms for me. I get one rent transfer each month, way easier than me getting 4 or 5 rent transfers. I'd way rather have one lease, one group than have multiple, right? So yeah, there are tons of landlords, even myself, who would be amenable and open to that type of arrangement. You could also just not tell the landlord. I mean, best practice would be to obviously get the permission of the landlord, but they can't really stop you. I've had tenants move in, sign it and say, hey, it's just me. They move in and it's like 4 guys moving in. I'm like, hey, what's going on? And they're like, yeah, I have some friends who are gonna move in with me. And I can't do anything. The landlord doesn't have the power that most people think they do. The tenant has most of the power in this relationship. So that's Ontario for you. Okay, let's go on next question. So Mike, do you agree about what Grant Cardone says to start with 16 plus unit apartment building? What do you think about that? So go TO. Uncle G is good. Grant Cardone has some good stuff. I don't think so. You're dealing with bigger deals, but I think it's easier to start with residential properties. My bread and butter has been residential. I've been able to become a millionaire just through residential rental properties because the profit percentages are better on the residential deals I'm doing than the commercial deals that I could do. But the size of the deal is so much bigger. So 10% margin on a $2 million deal gives me $200,000 in profit. I'll make 40% profit margin, 50% profit margin on a small deal, but it's a $200,000 deal, so I'm making 50 grand, right? So you'd think, wow, 200 grand is way better on a 16 unit building for 1.5 million or $2 million building than 50 grand on a small, duplex or triplex. But, right, so my percentages are way higher. But if I could do 10 houses and I had the choice between 10 houses and, 3 apartment buildings, let's say they're the same valuation in real estate. So $3 million in residential versus $3 million in commercial. I would always take $3 million in residential properties because a bunch of advantages like cheap debt. You can borrow at 2.5%. You can't borrow against commercial real estate at 2.9%, 2.6%. You're paying 4% typically, 3.99 to start on commercial real estate unless you have CMHC financing, then you can get it down. But commercial financing is more expensive. And the property tax mill rates are way higher. So that you're paying way more property tax. For dollar, a dollar of commercial property has way higher property taxes than a dollar of residential in most municipalities. So they punish commercial, they make them pay more of the tax bill. Also, your utilities tend to be a little bit higher. Your mortgage, your insurance, dollar for dollar of value of property is way higher on commercial. But again, you get to a point where I'm at where if I'm gonna buy 1,000 properties, I physically can't manage 1,000 properties. I need to get into bigger properties to put in a manager in place. So I will eventually evolve into bigger deals. I'm already looking at a 15 unit. We offered on a 15 unit apartment building. I will start buying apartment buildings now. I have to. It's the evolution of things. But I think as an investor starting out, trying to unlock financial independence and just like if your goal is financial independence, and I think that should be the goal of most people to free themselves from their job, and your goal is FIRE, your goal is just getting $1 million, then don't get into apartment building investing. Like you don't need to. It's not the easiest way to get into. It's very hard. If you're syndicating apartment building deals, you have to put together financing. It's a lot. It's a lot more intimidating. It's a lot more work involved in huge multifamily than small multifamily. So that's sort of my thoughts on it. Both can work. I know people who make tons of money with both, so I'll be getting into both. It's just the nature of things. It has to be that way. Okay, let's go up here and keep going. Makes sense. Thanks for answering my question. Really though, we'll need to reward a few times. Rewind. Okay, a few times to let that sink in. Yeah, just rewatch it and listen to it again and think about it. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. If you guys are watching 58 minutes in and you're enjoying this, let me know. I'd love to hear about it. So that'd be cool. I really do enjoy. I got a lot of enjoyment from you guys smashing that like button, sharing it on social media. If you have a friend who you think would you get value from this, sharing that with them. When people reach out to me on Instagram, I really enjoy that too. I get a lot of those messages now, and I probably get one a day, and it's great just to have one a day or two a day pop up, and it's reaffirming and encouraging and keeping me on the track of doing this because Lord knows I could be spending time not doing YouTube and doing other things and making way more money, but I'm trying to give back and trying to help people and build a network, and I'm having some fun doing it. So, okay, let's keep going with some more questions. Scrolling up. Where do you find wholesalers who can sell you a deal? So reach out. There's some Facebook groups that are fantastic for that. Reach out in some of the Facebook groups that exist. Look into, go on Kijiji. There'll be wholesalers advertising. Most wholesalers are looking for a stream of investors. So they're out there marketing themselves in groups on Facebook, in, local meetup groups are a fantastic way. You can meet up with some real estate investors and someone will know a wholesaler, guaranteed. And get in with the wholesaler. To get in with the wholesaler, you need to be ready to close in cash. Most of the wholesalers, they will give the best deals to their investors that can close in cash. So if you don't have the ability to quick close, it's hard to get in with a wholesaler. The wholesaler wants that investor who has that quick close, is super rich. So it's hard to get in buddy-buddy with a wholesaler. You need to get that good relationship. Some wholesalers too, just be careful guys. Some wholesalers sell deals that aren't even that good. I've seen a lot of wholesale deals that are just not good. So they're basically acting as real estate agents that are not licensed. So why would you go through a wholesaler who's going to sell you a property they're not going to give you the service their real estate agent's going to give? So I don't know. So I've also met some bad wholesalers who have crazy high fees, and those guys really should, those guys really should not be doing what they do. Like there's some sleazy wholesalers. Be very careful. They're I've heard some horror stories of wholesalers. Just be careful because they have no ethical obligation, right? They don't have to do anything. Realtors are obligated by law to follow certain things. They can't screw you the way that a wholesaler can screw you. So just be very careful. I've seen them hide things, and just be careful. I don't recommend it as a place to start. Don't start with your first deals. Shouldn't be wholesale deals. Private deals, fantastic. On a daily basis, and that's a question I saw pop up a little while ago. I can't remember who said it, but something asking about where I get my deals and what my last couple deals look like. Well, my last deals were, my house I just bought that I'm going to be moving into, the new place, the new 3,200 square foot property. Check that out on Instagram. I'll be sharing stories as I renovate it and stuff. Into the 7+1 bed, 4 bath, beautiful 2-car garage house. Built in 1986, moved in 1987. When the original owner, I bought it from the original owner, so that was kind of cool. But talking about, deal hunt. So last couple deals. One of them was, actually last two were both private deals. So actually the private deal, they signed something. I was bringing them an offer. I'd seen the property already. They signed something with an agent the same day as I was bringing them the offer. And so technically now the agent got involved. Didn't go on MLS, but the agent had to get their commission. We worked out a deal privately where we reduced the commission. It all worked out with the agent, but agent got in at the last minute. It didn't make it on MLS, thank goodness. So I wasn't competing, just bought the property. And then the other property before that was also private, bought a triplex. And I need an investor for this one, but I have someone in mind. So I think, and if I don't have that investor in mind, I'm going to do it myself. And I'm going to film it. You guys get to see this really cool triplex near the university. I'm really excited for this property. It's a 9-bedroom triplex, like each unit on the main floor, which is beautiful. 2-car garage, sweet little deal for 300 and something thousand. So that was a private deal. I'm really happy about that one. It's going to need a lot of work, but it has a lot of value upside if you put in the work. So yeah, the last two deals were private. Before that, we got some deals at MLS too. Basically my best deals on MLS are ones that are really stale. So they've been on the market for like 5 months and there's a reason that they haven't sold. And maybe it was bad tenants, some reason they didn't sell, or they got stale. And so now all the Toronto buyers are like, ooh, why did no one buy this in 4 or 5 months? So now no one wants to touch it, right? It's a stale listing or a fresh listing. I usually don't buy the in-between. I mostly buy, like, it lands on MLS, I close on it like that day, like a Viper. No conditions, 2-week close, boom. Or I jump in and get a really stale listing. So those are, like on MLS, I look for stale or fresh. So those are kind of my angles on MLS. Also like some pocket listings. So an agent will have, it'll be about to hit MLS like next week. They have it under contract. It's not technically a private deal because there's an agent involved, but honestly, I recommend go out there and call like 50 agents in your market. I want to get to know every single agent in my market. And I talk to them and tell them what I'm looking for. And agents will just call me. They're like, hey man, I just got a deal. It's coming on MLS in 3 days. Do you want to take a look? And so if you knew every agent in town, every deal would come through. Like ideally, when I have a bigger network, my acquisition strategy is going to have, I want every agent in town to be calling me about properties before they hit MLS. So when they hit MLS, it's too late. People have already seen them. I want them before they hit MLS. I want to have a chance to negotiate. If there's not every deal is good, but sometimes there is, and you can pick it off if you're prepared to close quickly. And I am. Like you guys know, I have cash reserves. I can close on a property like that, right? So really appreciate it, some of these questions. There's some great questions you guys have been asking. So getting out that practical knowledge, just sucking it right out of me. That's what this is meant to do. This is Wise Wealth Wednesdays for you guys. Okay, just saw another question pop up. I really appreciate that comment. So you save up for the down payment and then just get a loan for the rest. Jonathan Cesares asks. Yes. So if you want a 100K property, you pay 20K and finance the rest. That's correct, 20% down. You can use CMHC private mortgage insurance, so PMI, use private mortgage insurance, pay them a fee, it's a significant fee, but buy at 5% down. With the purchase plus improvement strategy, that's buying 0 down. So I know a lot of people who do that strategy for their first deal. They live in it, they own or occupy it. The 5% down, you have to live in the property or say you're gonna live in the property to get that kind of financing. Yeah, so typically 20% down. Commercial real estate, another downside is they always ask for 35% down unless you do CMHC financing on apartment buildings. You can do 15% down on apartment buildings there are certain ways, there are techniques to do that. But yeah, so commercial tends to be higher down, worse interest rates. Residential, typically 20% down. Yeah, so you do have to, there's a level of saving or, you know, at least showing that you have, if you have an RRSP or something or some retirement account, you can show that for a down payment and then borrow on unsecured line of credit to close the house. Technically, I've done that where I've done 0 down deals where I'm using unsecured lines of credits at banks, secured to nothing, that is go in and get a line of credit and use that line of credit as a down payment. But to qualify, they had to show that I had the cash to buy the house. So I'll use my investment accounts to show that I have down payment and then not liquidate the investment accounts. Just use line of credit to buy the house. So I'm 100% leveraged. I use none of my own money to buy the deal. I use the bank's money at 3% to buy the deal. So I'm a big fan of using the bank's money. That was how I was able to get so wealthy, was I borrowed a few $1,000,000 from the bank at, you know, on average 2.3%, 2.4%. And when you borrow that kind of money from a bank and you use that and it grows at 10% and you're borrowing at 3%, you're making 7% on every million you borrow. So that's 70 grand every year you're making on every million you borrow. So I encourage people, go out there and get cheap debt. It's still relatively cheap in Canada and the United States. So go out there and use that cheap debt. We're at a point in history where people talk, I talk to a lot of older folks who say like, oh, Mike, I feel bad for you guys. Like, it's so hard today to do real estate. Like back in the day, I could buy a house for 10,000. It was so much easier. I could go into the bank. There was no credit score. It's like I built a relationship. They gave me mortgages. You know, there was none of this like technology. And I'm like, you know what? Technology is actually a boon for the economy and then for my own businesses. Because if you learn how to leverage technology to your advantage, you get a lot more done. And yeah, there are new mortgage rules that are a lot tougher than they were, you know, 20 years ago. But there are a lot of advantages today, right? We have the cheapest debt in history. Not right now, but a year ago, we had the cheapest debt in history. We have a lot of advantages at our disposal now, and you can use technology like Airbnb. You could never use Airbnb 10 years ago. Now you have that at your fingertips, right? So there's new technologies and things coming into play that allow us to connect tenants and properties really quick, really easy. In the old days, you had to put an ad on in the paper. You had to put a sign on your front lawn. It was, you know, it's just a lot easier now. I do video walkthroughs of my properties with a good camera. I go through, do video walkthrough, and I send that walkthrough. Okay, Emma, for you, I'll put the glasses back on. You guys wanted Superman. You want Clark Kent? Okay, there you go, guys. There's Clark Kent. Yeah, this is my secret identity, guys. Now no one knows who I am. It's like, is this Mike Rosehart? Or like, you guys want Superman giving you the knowledge? Or do you want this guy, this Mike Rosehart guy? Okay, let's keep putting these questions. I forgot, I lost my train of thought now. Thanks for popping that up there and killing my train of thought, Emma. I'm gonna charge you extra on our investment deal now. No, I'm just kidding. I'll give you a deal. Okay. Michael, how you doing? I'm late. I saw your comment pop up earlier. I'm hoping you could speak on how you went about approaching professionals when building out your team and first starting out, real estate agents, accountants, insurance, lenders, contractors. Yeah, so Jake, great question. That's a fantastic question. And we could spend a bit of time talking about that. Talking to other real estate investors, I've learned how to find really good deals from an insurance perspective. I found guys who are really good with like the best insurance rates. I have properties, I have rental, my own house I live in, it's like, I think I pay $450 a month, or a year, $450 a year. We're talking $40 a month for property insurance. I had a triplex with 2 triplexes with 22 bedrooms, like rooming house style, massive property, 14 parking spaces in the back near the university. And I was paying $99 a month for each property on insurance. $5,000 deductible, which means I'm not gonna make a claim. They know unless someone dies on the property. $2 million liability, protect my assets in case I get sued. Have the liability insurance, big fan of the liability umbrella insurance to protect yourself, especially if you own properties personally. Big fan of avoid, you know, when it comes to insurance, a lot of guys want to over-insure. They want to get the water back up and, oh, I need like rent replacement and this and that. You know what? Honestly, I think you should have a contingency fund. Like I have a line of credit for $10,000 for each property I own, just in case. So I had a property flood, and I'll give you an example. I had a property flood and I went to the insurance. $1,000 deductible at that time. And the cost of my premium increase, if I got the insurance kickback, was higher than the kickback over a 5-year period. So I didn't even want the insurance claim. I didn't even want to make the claim because my insurance would go up higher. I was worried about my insurance going up higher than the gain I'm going to get. The insurance company makes a profit, right? And they're designed to do that. So I would rather pay half the insurance premium and put that money aside. Like you guys know, for all of my properties, I at one point had like insurance on, you know, I have a lot of properties and a lot of insurance on all those properties, and we're talking thousands of dollars a year difference. And I can tell you, I've had one basement flood, and it cost me $4,000 to fix the drywall up, got the fans in there, put new floors in, everything. Like, it's not, things aren't as expensive as you think. And we had like a couple inches of water everywhere. Things are not as expensive as you think. If you get fans in there quickly, get things taken care of, get dehumidifiers in there, cut the drywall out, cut the trim out, replace it. It's not that expensive. Most things are not that crazy. If it's a major incident, who cares about a $5,000 deductible, because you're looking at $1 million claim and $5,000 is nothing. You know, I put $5,000 out, they put $995,000 out. You're protected. Your major downside's protected, and then put all that insurance premium money aside. That's been my strategy, and I sort of self-insure. So not the best strategy, but talking about like media accountants, you guys know I worked as an accountant. I worked at KPMG, and so I have the accounting background. I file my own taxes. I do have some good accountants. I've stopped. This year I'll hire an accountant because things are getting really complex. But up until now, I've just kind of dealt with things myself, been my own bookkeeper. But go out there and network. You can meet those people. Agents, again, just reaching out, going to a lot of open houses. I probably went to 100 open houses at least to meet all the agents in town and get to know people. That's sort of the best way to build the relationships, and just explain where you're coming from and get to know people, because that's, if someone came to you and you brought an offer to them and you had the relationship, you'd always get the deal over someone who doesn't have that relationship. So relationships are everything in this business. So that's my advice. Let's go up and hit some more questions. Some great questions here. Okay, yes. Message retracted from Michael Chung. I don't know what you said. You retracted a message. Must have been something about these glasses. Okay, Jake says, looks nice. Oh, the laminate. Yeah, that time. That's right. Mike, where do you get a truck to pick up these goodies you bought off Kijiji? So, Jason, I used to have an SUV and used to do some stuff like that. I've considered getting a trailer, but now I just have guys that have trucks or guys that have trailers, and I rely on those guys to move the things. Also, I've been able to negotiate fairly well. A lot of people on Kijiji know someone with a truck, and I say, hey, I'll give you $40 if you can deliver this, and I'll give you full price on your item. Or I use my main appliance guys that I always use, who sell used appliances, and those guys tend to typically have they have delivery systems set up. So you pay $40 and they deliver a fridge, stove, dishwasher, put it in place. That's worth it. I used to go around and get them all myself. Like, I would load dishwasher up in the back of my car and go hook it up. It's not worth your time. Like, maybe it is when you're first starting out, but for me especially, no task worth less than $40 an hour is worth my time. I make $1,000 an hour when I'm focused on doing what I do so well, and I should be spending all of my time on those high value tasks. It really is better, I think, to have. Thank you for that, Jake. I appreciate that comment. Just read that come up. I would much rather have, spend, even if I have to spend $50 to deliver something, what's my time worth? If it takes me an hour to go drive and get something, hook it up, whatever, it's 2 hours of my time. Do I value my time so little at $20 an hour? No, I should be spending that time networking and meeting people and building the deal flow and stuff like that. So yeah, sort of my thoughts on that. We did that question. It's a good question, Jason, by the way. And yeah, we're gonna get the lower unit in our JV together. Jason is now one of our investors too. A lot of you guys have become my investors, which is fantastic. We're buying properties, and I'm excited for all you guys. All of my investors need minimum 5 properties to work with me, so I got to get them into getting 5 properties. And then when I get some people fired, like financially independent, retired early, not fired from their jobs, but yes, fired from their jobs because they're fired. When I get some people fired, I want to do some success stories and share that. And I need to do a video on some of the deals I've done recently. I really need to do that so you guys can see the 11 properties we bought. No, 12 now. We're on lucky number 13 deal. I want to just buy so many of them, the biggest. Like, I don't think anyone's buying a property a week. Like, almost no one buys a property a week. So they said, no, it's not possible. So I said, why not? Why can't I do that? Just like the bank said, you're not going to get any more mortgages after 5. And then I went and got 5 more. I like to hear no. It's actually my favorite word, so then I can push past and do what people say I can't do. Okay, let's hit some more questions here. Thoughts on drop shipping? I know some people that do drop shipping. I hear good things. people, doing the Amazon programs and stuff like that. I don't have the experience with that, but I have friends who do it, and I hear it's relatively simple. It's nice because you don't have to, like in the old days, you had to manufacture a product, you had to store that product, then you had to ship that product. It's nice with, working with Facebook or working with Amazon that you don't have to do that, right? So that's really nice. I don't have a lot of experience in that. I don't deal a lot with that, so it really is. Yeah, I hear people doing really well with it. Honestly, my farm area has always been real estate. I'm a personal finance guy. I'm a real estate guy. I'm an investor, but I don't do that. I would love to get into that. I have some friends who do that, and I hear really great things. Like you could just pick a product, anything, and resell it. Brand it in a specific light, and then resell that. I think there are obviously some risks with that, but I hear really good things. People making a lot of money doing that. So something to think about. If you're into that, don't need that much capital, I don't think, to get started, other than to buy some initial inventory. I guess you wouldn't even need to. You can even do it without buying any inventory at all. Anyway, thoughts on Tesla going private? What do you think of Elon Musk as an entrepreneur? I have his book. I wanted to read it on Elon Musk. Tesla, honestly, I haven't been following. I've been so busy with real estate that I haven't had a chance to follow. Last I looked at the stock, it was overvalued. It was trading at a PE ratio, price to earnings, that was just too high for me. I like to buy more companies that have stronger cash flow to price. I think it's overpriced. They're pricing growth in, and I don't like to pay for growth. I like to pay for earnings now, earnings today, cash flow. I want to get my money back. I think when I'm investing in something, how do I get my money back? My money back can't be a future growth strategy that may or may not pan out. So it's just too risky, I think, to invest in growth stocks. But I've invested in growth stocks myself too. There was a time when I dabbled in all of that. I don't now. I get 100% return on investment in real estate. So Warren Buffett can't touch that because leverage. So I'm doubling my money in everything. Every project I touch, my cash on cash is minimum 25%. And there are no stocks on the public market that get 25%. So honestly, I don't have much of a portfolio. I have some stocks, and I do have some dividend stocks utility companies and things that are consistent and stable as like my backup in case real estate ever failed. I have an income stream that covers all my living expenses. I want to be a couple times over. But yeah, Jason says hi, Lisa. Yeah, she's out there talking on the phone. That's crazy how in Vaughan, Ontario, $1.5 to $2 million house is normal, which typically 4 to 5 bedrooms. While in London, that money would buy you a castle. That's right. In London, that would buy you a castle. And you could house hack that castle and live in it for free. So that's London for you, Battelle. Alan Lawrence, how you doing? Good to see you on. Would you keep a real estate mastermind in Toronto? Sure, maybe we should have a mastermind. Alan Lawrence, maybe we should have a mastermind or something. I'd be down. I'd be excited for that. My buddies, Matt McKeever and Jeff Weiber, are putting on ORAC 2019 here in London. Be one of the biggest in Southwestern Ontario. I'll be a speaker there for sure. That'll be cool. I'll probably set up a booth there too. So come out and support the boys in London here. It'll be a great 2-day event. Really excited for that. Okay. Michael Chung, can you give us an example of an exit strategy? Thanks, man. So an exit strategy being whenever you buy a property, you always want to have an exit strategy. So whenever I buy a property, I need a way to get my money out. I look at an exit strategy. There's 2 exit strategies. One, how do you sell the property? And the other one is how you get your money back out of the property. Sometimes it's as simple as cash flow. Like if I'm getting the 1% rule, then theoretically I get 100% of the purchase price back in 100 months. But if you're putting 20% down, you'd have theoretically all of your money back in 20 months or 2 years, right? On a true 1% deal, you get your money back in 24 months. So 2 years, just in rent, you get your money back. So if you don't refinance it, but obviously you want to refinance. A good exit strategy is one where you get the rental income coming in, you're getting your down payment back no matter what, guaranteed no matter what happens to the market, you're getting cash flow. But then also you get that refinance play. So you buy it for 200, it's worth 300. You pull that extra money out. You do a purchase plus improvements. You pull that money out. Whatever strategy you want to use to pull that money out, that's a good exit strategy. One where when you buy a property from day one, you can sell it for more than you bought it for. I don't like to close on a property, and I ideally don't like to close on a property and have it be worth what I bought it for. I like to have a way to add value to it. So you add value, and then you have a good exit strategy where you part with the property, or maybe you keep it forever. And I don't recommend that, because you should always rebalance your portfolio. Certain areas appreciate too much. You should sell in that area and buy a different area. Same with stocks. You shouldn't hold the stock forever just because you love it. You should rebalance, or be in a portfolio that rebalances for you, like Berkshire Hathaway will rebalance for you. Okay, those are my sort of thoughts on that. Okay, what was the next question that we have here? What could you be a home evaluator and overvalue your properties and get refinance your property and pull out more money? Wait, could you be a home evaluator and overvalue your property? Yes, you could, and get refinance your property. Yeah. So I think what you're saying is, if you're an appraiser, could you appraise your own property? Don't know about that. Probably not. Usually the lender will order the appraiser. So usually you don't get a choice. If you get a bad appraiser, the lender will select the appraiser, and you get a bad appraiser, you can call and reorder a new one. I've done that before. There's certain people I don't ever have any of my properties because they're bad and they give bad appraisals and they just don't know market value. So I avoid certain appraisers. But anyway, especially new appraisers, I avoid those too, like the plague. Yeah, I guess theoretically, if you had this is a strategy I thought about once. In commercial real estate, there are only a few main guys at the top, and you could theoretically hire someone to come through privately to tell you their opinion of what you need to do to get a certain valuation. And then if you knew those appraisers, commercial appraisers, well enough, and you get to know all of them in the town, then with commercial, you hire the appraiser. So you hire that appraiser back in for $2,000 for an appraisal on a commercial property, and he gives you an appraisal at 2.5 if the numbers support it. He's not going to do anything that's going to cost him his job, but within reason, he could go on the high end. And if you were friends with that appraiser, theoretically, you could get a higher appraisal and pull out all your money on apartment buildings. People do this. I've heard stories of people knowing commercial appraisers and give them a little bribe on the side to get that, $1.8 to $2 million valuation. This kind of stuff does happen. Even without bribing, if you had a good relationship with the appraiser, you could ask them, hey, what things would you like to see done to this apartment building to get a $2 million valuation? What rents do I need to get this? And they'll tell you, this is what I used to, this is how I appraise the property. This is what you will do. This is what you need to do to get this appraisal. And there, you can work with the appraiser. They'll help you get to realize that value. So work with the appraiser sometimes. That's a great strategy too. Okay. What do you think of east of the GTA, Scarborough, York, Markham region real estate market? I don't know. I hear good things about Scarborough. People cash flowing there actually, possibly. I hear good things around the university there. People are actually able to cash flow by the bedroom somehow in Toronto. Somewhat well, not as well as London, but they can still cash flow. I've heard really bad things about Oakville and places like that. I've heard the market is contracting in Toronto. I think with interest rates coming up, Toronto isn't going to see the same kind of growth that London will. I think from an appreciation perspective, London's better off than Toronto, which is crazy because Toronto's like a capital, right? From a size and wealth perspective, Toronto's the biggest in Canada. So you'd think that it would appreciate the fastest, but I don't think that. I think there's a bit of a correction. We've already seen a bit of a correction in Toronto. So yeah, if someone offered me a property right now in Toronto, I would not want to touch it with a 10-foot pole unless it was 80% of market value, in which case it's probably a private deal. Okay, let's hit some more questions here, guys. Have most of your deals been on realtor or private? Tyrone Bigums. A little bit of both, a mix. I don't rely on either. If you rewind a little bit, you'll see some of the stuff I talked about this. Michael Chunks is going to catch the replay on 1.25 speed. Yeah, I talk quickly, so 1.25 is, some people can watch me at 2 times speed, and those people, I'm impressed with those people. Max, I'm thinking of you. Okay, how many hours watch are you at? I think I'm at 4,500, so I'm well over monetized, but YouTube has a backlog right now. I guess a lot of people have been approved, so there's about a month and a half wait time. So I don't know when the monetization will kick in and come through, but it's going to happen soon. And we're going to start releasing the content. We've invested in some good gear, so I'm really excited about dropping some of that stuff. From that new content we're going to start releasing. I have a bunch of videos in the queue that I just need to edit, so some of them are going to be not pro, but you're going to start noticing in the next 2 weeks or so, we'll probably start getting to the really pro videos in about 2 weeks or so, yeah. So working with someone really excited for us to drop that, so Hark's Creative. If you guys need any help with stuff, Hark's Creative, fantastic. Your videos provide practical knowledge, which is really cool. Better than going to real estate school. Yes, Kunik, this is like real estate school. Every Wednesday we do, it's basically like free coaching every Wednesday. You guys get like unfettered access to me, and I'll answer anything. I'll share whatever's on my mind. I don't hold much back. So take advantage of that. People pay me $100 an hour to talk to me, and like I don't even have enough hours in the day to talk to people. So take advantage of this. Okay, Drew Letkinman says, first-time viewer, really appreciating the down-to-earth, honest discussion, looking for financial independence, saving as much as possible and stocking up on the knowledge. Mike, you're a knowledge jackpot. Drew, thank you. That was a sweet comment. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I wish there was someone like this helping me through the process to unlock fire. And you don't need to use real estate to get there. We talk a lot about real estate on Wise Wealth Wednesdays because real estate is a way to unlock financial independence, like fire, unlock that way sooner. But you don't need to go that path. You could be financially independent without any real estate at all. So there you go. Something to noodle and think on. I'll have a 30-day financial challenge coming out soon. We're going to start doing videos on specifically different tactics you can use to basically get your budget in control and start saving, even if you don't invest in real estate at all. So that's something that I'm excited to share. Okay. The glasses, yeah. At the end of the mortgage term, can you renew with a different bank lender, and are there fees and penalties associated with that? Martin asks. So Martin, great question. When you renew a mortgage, you'll have a mortgage term. Let's call it 5 years fixed, 2 years fixed, 5-year variable. At the end of a term, there is no penalty. You can move to any lender you want, and there's no penalty. There's often a legal fee to change lenders, but on a refinance, lenders will comp that. They will almost always pay your legal fees to refinance. Sometimes they'll even pay out your differential. So there's an interest penalty differential, it's called. And usually it's 3 months interest is the typical rule of thumb. So you'll pay 3 months of interest payments to leave a lender and go to a new lender. So that's like your breakout fee plus some small discharge fee of $300 and some legal fees. I've gotten lenders to refinance me at lower interest rates and break, because I started investing in 2012. Interest rates were like they are now. And we had a really low period where I was getting interest rates at like 1.99, 2.14, 2.2, 2-year fixed, stuff like that, 3-year fixed. So I was getting really cheap debt. And so I was breaking out of my mortgages that were at 3.39 when I started. It was at 3.39 fixed. I was breaking out of those mortgages, paying 3-month differential. And the new lender was giving me, they were so hungry for business, they're giving me a better deal, giving me like 2.2% interest rate. And they were buying out my part of my differential. And I ran the numbers, like even paying the 3 months differential made up, I was break even in like 12 months because the interest rate was so much cheaper. So definitely, you definitely consider that. Yeah, if you're going to refinance, consider that, right? Run the numbers on it, put it in Excel and say, hey, is this worth it? Is it not worth it? But yeah, talking about the end of a term, you can totally discharge the old mortgage, put the new one on. You can break it midway through too and pay the differential fee. I forget the other parts of the question here. I think I answered most of it there. If I didn't, just throw it in the comments. I think I talked about most of the fees related to that. You'll have an appraisal fee. You can usually get the lender to comp the appraisal fee too. They'll comp you back, compensate you for that appraisal. I usually don't pay for appraisals unless, yeah, sometimes I'm trying to get the deal done and I don't care. But if I can, I'll fight for that. I've been a really frugal guy, so I'll fight for the lowest interest rate. I'll fight for the free appraisal and the free legal fees. Why not, right? I've probably fought for a good $30,000 in reduction in just fees on closing that most investors are like, whatever, I'll pay the appraisal fee. Whatever, I don't care, right? Those little dollars add up though to 50 or 100,000. Same way a coffee every day from Starbucks adds up to tens of thousands, right? The latte factor. It's huge, it's real. It's the reason people aren't financially independent because they're making these small bad choices that add up. And I advise everyone who wants to pursue financial independence, and I advise you that those small things, do small good things. And every day it'll multiply, right? Put $10 aside every day. And that'll add up to a ton of wealth in the long term. So small decisions early on, time is your best friend. So you get compound interest, right? It compounds and it grows into something amazing. Like $1,000 saved now is $10,000 when you're an old man or an old woman. So save that $1,000 now. It's a lot harder to save $10,000 later. People think, oh, I'll just save later. Oh, I'll do that later. Do it now. Now's the time to make those changes in your life. Now's the time to start house hacking, rent hacking. Drop those expenses. Check out the 30-day course I want to drop soon. Do some videos on that with the new camera. Okay, really appreciate the responses. Google searches can only get you so far. Also, the Canadian touch is appreciated. Nova Scotian here. Hey Jake, how you doing? Nova Scotia, that's sweet. I'm actually flying to Newfoundland in a couple of weeks. Newfoundland. That was I don't even know why I said that. It was a bad accent. Jordan Solomon. Hey Mike, are you able to talk a little bit about how you've optimized your monthly expenses to get them as low as possible? Yeah, Jordan. You can share some old videos. I'm going to do a video coming up soon on how much I spend right now. So you can see like a dollar by dollar what I spend in every single category. And then I'll give you strategies in my 30-day financial transformation. I'm going to do 30 videos on the YouTube channel here. Subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you can be notified when I drop a video, because then you'll know when I drop the video. So to do that and hit that little bell beside the subscribe button, hit the bell. Do it now. If you haven't done it now, do it. But yeah, I'm going to share a lot of strategies on how I get groceries for half price. How I was able to live on, like, we have a family of 3. I have a 2.5-year-old daughter, and people think kids are expensive. They don't have to be. The three of us live for like $2,000 a month. After house hacking, I live for like $800 a month, all in. I'm talking my car, everything, my entire lifestyle, including vacation budget, all of it. I live very, very frugally. And so you can be FI extremely quickly if you're living very frugally, because one, you can save a ton when you're living so frugally. All of what you're earning is being saved and invested, and it's growing and compounding so quickly. And on top of that, if you can maintain that lifestyle for a while, you don't need as much to actually retire. Like the amount you need in passive income to cover your living expenses when they're that low is very low. So your FIRE number is like 300,000-400,000. I know people that retire on $250,000, 250 grand. It's not even hard to get 250 grand. Anyone can get 250 grand in 3, 4, 5 years. Anyone. Like it can be done by any person. So that's something I think that, yeah, I'm a big fan of reducing your living expenses. Way more important than earning more money. Okay, let's hit this up. I got to wrap up pretty soon, guys. I'm inside the tiny house, so I don't know when the bath time is. My daughter's probably going crazy inside the house wanting me to come in and do bath time with her. Looking forward to my second. Talk current stock market stability. I don't have a lot of confidence right now. I'll just leave it at that. Can you make a video further explaining rent hacking without owning the house, like how to sublet? That would be greatly appreciated. Zach in Kentucky, I totally can. I'll do a video on rent hacking, which is what that is called. I call it rent hacking. What is your plan if a real estate recession hits Canada? Are you going to ramp up buying 2 to 3 properties a week with investors? Tommy, yes. I hope my investors are prepared that if we go into a recession, they're not going to say, I don't want to touch real estate. They're going to say, how much more can I buy now? Because in a recession, people will rent, right? People can't afford to buy, so they rent. And there will still be strong demand in a recession in Canada for rents. So what that means is cash flow producing properties will still and continue to remain king. Cash is king, cash flow is King Kong, right? Let's not forget that. So yeah, I would double down hardcore in a recession. You guys know I'm in a cash position. I would go probably 100% in real estate. If I see the fundamentals are leaning towards a recession and things are cooling down, seasonally, we're going to hit our low in December. I think next December will be a better low than this December. But who knows? I don't have a crystal ball. Who knows what can happen? But I do believe that recession is coming. I don't think it'll be a big one in London. I think London prices will tend to be pretty stable. I just think we won't have a lot of appreciation. We'll be flat. The nice thing about that is all the bad flippers, all the bad real estate investors are going to get punished because they weren't buying smart. And when there's no appreciation, they're going to get punished. So I like that. I like to see good investors get rewarded and bad investors get punished. In this last 2 years, I've seen bad investors make a ton of money with bad properties. Yeah, because everything appreciates and they make a ton of money. And it takes no skill. And I like to see people who have skill and who are playing the game well be rewarded. So in a recession, people who have skill and play the game well, they get rewarded. Only the bad speculator investors get punished in a recession. So anyway, actually most of the multimillionaires today made their money through real estate, and the side of that is most of the real wealth was made during a recession. I wish I was investing in real estate in 2008, 2009. I didn't start until 2012, so I didn't have as much of an advantage as I could have had. But anyway, yes, I'll make a video on that. What is your plan? Okay, we did that question. Alan Lawrence says, yo, yeah, could you do a video on rent hacking? What type of neighborhoods to look in, types of properties, and give us a lot of value to the young investors? Yes, I would be happy to do a video on that for you guys. No problem. Any suggestions for good books to read for someone breaking into the real estate industry? Check out biggerpockets.com. It's a free resource. There's a lot of really great books you can watch on YouTube, like listen to on YouTube too. Like Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week was a great one for me. It kind of hit home. The Rich Dad, Poor Dad type stuff was good as a starting book. I didn't read a lot of books, but I read a lot of blogs and I talked to a lot of people. And I think that was like fundamental for me, was just talking to a lot of people and going through the motions. Like even offer on a house, conditional, even though you know you can't close on it, and go through the process of trying to get a mortgage and see what they ask for and just go through all of that. And then don't waive conditions. Like basically let the conditions expire and let the deal fall apart and waste everyone's time, but learn something. That's valuable. I think your first couple deals, there's nothing wrong with that. I know you're wasting a seller's time, but it's very good for you to do that. And I did that a lot. Like my first probably like 5 deals didn't even happen. It was just me trying to make the deals happen. I honestly went in with a sincere effort of trying to make the deal happen. And if you're going to do that, I think you should go in with a sincere effort of trying to make the deal happen. But if it doesn't happen, that's okay. It's a learning experience, right? And so yeah, I recommend that. Go through those hoops and learn something from that. So biggerpockets.com is fantastic. Obviously, Drew, you're new to the channel, but check out like the last 10 or so Wise Wealth Wednesdays, because I do 2 hours of like real estate talk. If you listen to all 10 of those, you'll be way further ahead than you would have been before watching those. So it's probably a good investment of your time as well. Checking out some of my videos on that. Hey Mike, what is your dream car? I've had some different dream cars along the path. And right now, something economical, maybe a Tesla. I think like a nice Tesla would be pretty sweet right now. I'd be also down to have like a nice little 2-seater sports car, like a little Nissan or something like that. Alec, I'm not sure why they upload at 480, probably because I'm on Wi-Fi in my tiny house. And so the reason they're not uploading in HD right now is because I'm on my phone. My cameras are over here. We're shooting in like 4K with the new camera probably. So I'll probably upload in 1080p. My videos now going forward will be, but the live streams are again on my phone. What I would need to do is get a wire out here and wire our new camera up, and I could shoot that in 1080p in really crystal clear quality. But yeah, unfortunately the phone is on Wi-Fi, so I think it just chooses the best setting so that it won't lag. If it was at 1080p, it'd probably be lagging a bit. I don't know if it is lagging right now. Hopefully it's not. Yeah, so I think we're through all the questions. A video going into more depth on how to find and get good real estate investment deals would be amazing too if you could do that. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. I have done some videos, if you go back, on how to analyze a deal, and some of me actually looking at MLS at some deals at random, so those are kind of valuable. Oh, okay, yeah. Jason says you can change it to 720p, so maybe you can update the settings a bit and get a bit higher quality. Can you BRRRR vendor take back? You could. So you set up a private mortgage, and when you write the private vendor take back mortgage, make sure you don't let them get you on any fees. Don't put any fees in there to discharge the mortgage. Just be able to pay it back anytime. Most sellers are not educated on that, and they'll be fine with signing that. And basically, you pay them out. So you go get a mortgage on it, and okay, so you get the mortgage, you go get an appraisal on it, you put up a first mortgage on it. That first mortgage comes in 200 grand, you pay out the private mortgage. So yeah, you could totally do that. And that's a refi. You basically use their money to buy the deal, and then you refi it after all the work. You're good. There you go, guys. I am almost at 100 minutes. So yes, Alan Lawrence, you can BRRRR a vendor take back. Got through all the questions today, guys. We are, I think, done. Wise Wealth Wednesday is concluded. I'm gonna go see my daughter, and it's 8:30 here in Eastern time. So I'm gonna wrap this up, 8:37 or 8:40. Wrap this up. As always, guys, you know the slogan: spend less, earn more, and maximize returns to unlock a wealthier you. Those are the 3 levers you have to play with. I implore you to take all 3 of those levers and maximize them to unlock your wealthiest you. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone. Fire. That's right. Financial independence. I want to get you guys fired. That's right, Michael Chung. Appreciate that so much, guys. Check out the Instagram handle. If you're still watching right now at the end, drop a comment. Share this. Say, hey, I really enjoyed this. I watched all the way to the end. Or I had a question, I didn't get this question answered. You were talking about this, and I'd really love to hear more about that. Or a video on X or Y. Or if I've forgotten to do a video for you, drop that and let me know. So anyway, guys, spend less, earn more, maximize returns. Cheers, guys. Superman's back, baby. Ending the live stream. Did I